Tonight against the Green Bay Packers, I think there's a clear and obvious decision that Vic Fangio needs to make at cornerback. I'll tell you what that is coming up next, right here on Locked On Eagles.
You are Locked On Eagles, your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Eagles podcast. I'm Louis DiBiase. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Thanks so much for making us your first listen each and every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you're going to get $300 back in bonus bets to use across the entire app. Eagles, Packers tonight, Monday Night Football, a battle of the two top 4 teams in the NFC, a big game for the race to the #1 seed in this conference. Lambeau Field, it's going to be a cold weather game, a revenge game for the Packers after losing to the Eagles in the first round of the 2024-2025 playoffs. A big one coming up tonight for the Birds and for the Packers. On defense, the Eagles, after the trade deadline, it feels like everything's coming together, right? They traded for Jalen Phillips. They improved their edge rusher position. They brought in Jair Alexander and Michael Carter. More options at cornerback. You feel like just law of average-wise. You've got 5 guys now behind Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean with some sort of experience and proven capability. You would hope that at least one of those players can be somewhat consistent the rest of the way and at least not be a liability in a playoff push in a race for the Super Bowl. So overall, on paper, this defense, and Nolan Smith is back from injury. He's going to play tonight. Brandon Graham makes his debut tonight coming out of retirement. Everything feels like it's coming together. The depth of this defense feels a lot better. Of course, we know about the top end talent as well on all 3 levels. I think this defense is set for a second half breakout. They've already had a really strong 2025 season, but kind of like last year, I could see them take another step where you start to see the sacks come and the turnovers a little bit more. Players are more fresh down the stretch, and they look like a top 3 unit for the rest of the season. But the one big question still remains, who is going to be, as I just mentioned, that third cornerback down the stretch? Is it going to be Jair Alexander? Is it going to be Michael Carter in the slot with Cooper DeJean kicking out to the outside? Is it going to be Kelee Ringo still or Adoree Jackson? And unfortunately, nobody else wins the job, so that's just the best of a bad situation, and they stick with them. Maybe these musical chairs last all season long. My suggestion for tonight was to give Alexander a shot at the outside job before moving DeJean to the boundary. But unfortunately, a few days after saying he's fully healthy, Jair Alexander was deactivated for this game for what was statused up as knee/coach decision, which, I don't know, that gives me Devin White vibes from last year, to be honest. We'll see, but that's not a good start to Alexander's time in Philadelphia. Fangio has tendencies when it comes to who he likes and who he doesn't, and Alexander just said the other day that he's healthy. The report from Zach Berman came out a little bit after the Eagles said he was deactivated, that they want him to have another week under his belt to pick up this Fangio defense. Of course, there is a knee injury that he's been dealing with now, it feels like, for a couple years. But is this more they're hiding behind a knee injury status and coach's decision when, in fact, the reality is they realized the minute they got him, it's apparent now why the Baltimore Ravens, who were a struggling secondary, had this guy as a healthy scratch pretty much the entire season. I hope that's not the case because, again, for me, my first suggestion was to give Alexander a shot on the boundary before moving DeJean outside and Carter in the slot, or giving Ringo the job permanently, or Adoree Jackson. I think there is one other move they can make tonight, though, to exhaust all their options on the outside before they kick Cooper DeJean out there. If they want to keep DeJean in the slot, one other thing that they can try tonight is to start Jakorian Bennett. Jakorian Bennett is kind of the dark horse, the least talked about player in that group of 5, this roulette of corners that still really there is a real question mark about. Kelee Ringo, look, I think he can get better down the stretch. I think he's had some solid moments this year, and he is a young player. Again, we said it all summer. He's still younger than Quinyon Mitchell. and always will be. So Ringo could get better, but you kind of know who you have in Kelee Ringo, like what you have in that player, the pros and cons of 2025 Kelee Ringo. Same too with Adoree Jackson. If Alexander looks shot from the start and you kind of have that answered, the one main question that remains before just putting Carter in the slot and DeJean on the outside is, what the heck do you have in Jakorian Bennett? Jakorian Bennett's an interesting player because, yeah, I thought early on in the season, against the Rams specifically, when they picked on him on that final drive, Matt Stafford just went after Jakorian Bennett. I thought he looked really bad. I was not very impressed, and honestly, he made Adoree Jackson look like an upgrade. But Bennett, you got to think about it. He was traded to the Eagles right at the end of the season, the preseason, I should say, the offseason, end of August, right before the regular season starts. Fangio's defense is certainly a lot to pick up for a cornerback. It's a lot of reading, a lot of zone, playing with anticipation, a lot of, requirements for passing lane vision. It's not easy to be a cornerback in a Vic Fangio defense. So being a last-second trade before the season starts, having to pick up that defense, then kind of getting thrown into the fire in some tough matchups, that's not easy on anybody, especially a young player that's still developing, like Jakorian Bennett. Again, I'm not saying he's the long-term option at this position, but for me, he's still a guy that you can't really write the book about him so far this year and conclude it. Like Adoree Jackson, we do know what you're getting in Adoree Jackson. We do know what you're getting in Kelee Ringo, I think, the rest of the way. I am still curious about Jair Alexander. I don't want to make any sort of conclusions about him yet, and I like Michael Carter in the slot. But Bennett is still kind of the big question mark. Like, if we want to keep DeJean in there and it's not Alexander, maybe Bennett can give you the most consistent. He could be the closest thing you have to last year's Darius Slay. And Bennett, you do look at the advanced metrics from 2024. There were some really bright spots in his game with the Raiders in Vegas. I thought his shadowing ability, press man coverage, he did show some elite flashes last year, and the numbers look pretty solid. His separation numbers are impressive. But again, Fangio's defense is different. This is not normally a man-heavy scheme. Is Bennett the right kind of fit? He does have a lot of the same weaknesses as Kelee Ringo, but again, he hasn't gotten the opportunity to prove that he can overcome those this year, whereas Kelee Ringo now has had 4 to 5 games of a sample size where it's like, okay, you kind of know what you're getting, at least for this year, the rest of the way in that player. So again, my initial suggestion on last week's episodes was, after they traded for Alexander, give him an opportunity to win the outside job. If he's not the guy, put DeJean on the boundary and then either have it be Alexander or Carter in the slot. But with Jakorian Bennett coming off IR now, Vic Fangio's mentioned multiple times they do kind of want to get a look at what they have still in JB because it's a very small sample size still. You look at the matchup against the Green Bay Packers as well. This is not a very difficult matchup where you're throwing him into the fire against Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams. Packers are really banged up at receiver and tight end. Like, oh no, you got to go up against Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson. Like, I think Bennett should be able to handle that. If he's going to be the guy down the stretch, you can't be nervous to throw him in any game. But I feel like this is a good first tune-up game, an evaluation matchup for Bennett before making any sort of concrete decisions at corner. So for me, I wanted to see Alexander. Now that we know he's a knee/coaching decision deactivation tonight, I think the Eagles should start Jakorian Bennett as CB3 against the Green Bay Packers. This is going to be a really fun matchup. Push comes to shove, though. They need Jalen Hurts, their franchise quarterback, to go on the road in a really tough environment. Lambeau Field. It's going to be cold outside. Monday Night Football. The Packers, this is a revenge game for them. They're really pushing that narrative. They need Jalen Hurts to step up tonight and do what he does best. Be clutch in big-time moments, in big-time games against big-time teams. Will he do it with his legs, though? Why are Jalen Hurts' rushing numbers so low this year? We'll get into it coming up next right here on Locked On Eagles.
Today's show is brought to you by our friends over there at Peloton. Look, folks, it's time to break through the busiest time of the year with a brand new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus that's powered by Peloton IQ. It's Peloton's most elevated technology and equipment yet that gives you real-time guidance, and it gives you endless ways to move, whether you want to work out by yourself or if you want to work out with your favorite instructor, like my personal favorite, Alex Toussaint. He always gets me fired up to tackle the day. And the thing I like about Peloton, it helps me achieve more in less times. They have features that help you plan, stay motivated, track your progress, and Peloton IQ also provides personalized workout plans and recommendations. That's something that I use right now during the busiest time of the year covering the NFL. They plan my workouts for me based on my mood, my vibe, and also my favorite instructors. So make sure you check it out and use it because it also helps you correct your form in real time, and it maximizes your reps. It counts your reps so that you can do it smarter, safer, and more efficient. Let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
Today's episode of the Locked On Eagles podcast is also brought to you by Rippling. If you're a business owner, here's the truth. SaaS promised to make work easier, but now the average company is buried by hundreds of apps that slow down your teams and simply don't work together. That's not SaaS, that's sad. Software as a disservice. That's why you need Rippling. Rippling is the unified platform for global HR, payroll, IT, and finance all in one place. They've helped millions of businesses replace a mess of disconnected tools with one system designed to give leaders clarity, speed, and control. By uniting your employees' teams, departments, all in one system, Rippling removes the bottlenecks, busy work, and silos that your software created. Everything from onboarding to payroll to IT access runs automatically and perfectly in sync. It's seriously simple to use and gives companies one source of truth for their people, data, and everything they touch. And right now you can get 6 months for free when you go to rippling.com/lockedonnfl. Learn more at rippling.com. That's rippling.com/lockedon for 6 months free. Terms and conditions apply. Thanks as always for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. And thank you so much for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Eagles Packers tonight, Monday Night Football. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Eagles. We'll be live right after the game for our squad show that goes for an hour. Me, Harry Mays, Jason Martias, live on YouTube. That will also get posted afterwards on all audio podcast platforms. And then I have my solo post-game show as well for 30 minutes. So make sure you subscribe to Locked On Eagles wherever you listen and on YouTube as well. Like I said before the break, Jalen Hurts has to be elite tonight. Like, this is the kind of game that normally Jalen Hurts is at his best. The biggest games against the best teams, the most important moments, primetime football, battling the elements. I guess it's supposed to be really miserable in Green Bay tonight. So this might be a game where the Eagles run the football and run it a lot. I will say, I really hope this game starts with a tush push on 1st and 10, just to stick it to the Green Bay Packers who tried to remove this play this offseason. I hope it starts with a 1st and 10 tush push, and I hope it ends with a tush push touchdown. But Jalen Hurts needs to do more than just run with the tush push. I think moving forward down the stretch of the season, I've said it on the podcast before, I want to see more manufactured design runs for Jalen Hurts. I think that will be a part of helping the run game become more consistent for the rest of 2025. They really have not used him as part of the read option game. I feel like defenses haven't had to worry as much this year about Jalen pulling the football, keeping it, getting upfield, getting to the sidelines. When you have Jalen Hurts playing from that role in the run game, you kind of have to play 12 on 10. Like, it's such an advantage for the Eagles offense, freezing a player in space, whether it's an edge rusher or a linebacker that is constantly in conflict because of Jalen Hurts. I think that really does help this rushing attack. Now, they have moved more to an under center type of rushing attack, play action. I want them to stick to that identity, but I do think down the stretch I want to see Jalen in the shotgun more as a design runner than you saw the first 8 games of the season. I was thinking about that before the show and wondering, why is it that Jalen Hurts hasn't run as much in 2025? Like, when you look at his numbers, he's on a career low pace for rushing totals. 58 carries this year so far. He's on pace for around 120 to 130 on the year, which would be the lowest total of carries for Jalen since 2021, his first year as a full-time starter. He's on pace for under 500 rushing yards as well. Right now he's at 207 on the season. He's had 600 plus 4 years in a row with 2 700-yard seasons sprinkled in there as well. Still on pace, though, for double-digit touchdowns. He has 5 rushing touchdowns so far this year. I'd imagine that'll go up tonight against Green Bay. But, why are the numbers lower? Why aren't we seeing Hurts use as much in the rushing game? There are times that I see plays that he runs, especially when he's trying to get out to the boundary, and I do wonder if he's lost, I don't want to say he's lost a step, but maybe half of a step in his career as a running quarterback. I watched clips the other night of his elite, historic, record-breaking rushing performance against the Green Bay Packers on Sunday Night Football in 2022, and it certainly seems like he had some extra juice. He did have another step in his game. And you wonder about that mystery leg injury that he suffered in 2023. Does that have anything to do with it? Also just plus rushing quarterbacks naturally slow down as the years go on. But then I started watching the 2024 Super Bowl tape where he just made the Chiefs pay with his legs. Every single time they brought pressure, he had an answer and found a way to gash you on the ground. And he is only 27 years old. It's not like this is a 35, 36-year-old Russell Wilson where you can understand why Jalen is slowing down. So I don't know if it's that as much as it's just a calculated decision by Jalen, by Nick Sirianni, by whoever the play caller has been over the last couple years to slowly reduce his involvement in the rushing attack in the name of keeping him healthy long-term for playoff runs and just for the longevity of his career. Because when you look at guys like Michael Vick and Cam Newton, and honestly, Russell Wilson, RG3, so many mobile quarterbacks, Carson Wentz, look at Carson. So many mobile quarterbacks physically wear down and don't age as well as pocket passers like a Tom Brady or a Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers, Matt Stafford, Joe Flacco even right now. Those guys can play well into their late 30s, even early 40s. Tom Brady was 45. I mean, that's a unique circumstance, but mobile quarterbacks normally don't get there. I think they've made a decision long-term for his career and for the long-term perspective of each season that they feel like they can win without that being the focal point of the offense now because they are so talented around Jalen. This doesn't have to be like 2021 where his rushing game is kind of the only thing you have to win football games, to be a consistent offense. He almost back then had to carry you as a mobile quarterback, where now he doesn't have to. So I think that's more of it than anything. I think that's the biggest explanation for why his numbers are down this year. Now, does that explain it entirely? No, I don't believe so. I think he has slowed down maybe a little bit. But I think it is mostly that Jalen is playing safe. He's sliding. He's not taking extra yards unless it's a really important moment of the game. I also think naturally he's just been more of a north-south runner. I don't ever think he's been like a Lamar Jackson kind of explosive athlete, getting outside the tackles. So I think that's part of it too. They're not running him up the middle as much, which is his superpower, because you're exposed more to contact. You're going to take more hits when you go up the middle. So I think that's it more than anything. I think Jalen is picking and choosing his spots wisely. Patullo is not calling design runs as much. And I think Sirianni and Howie Roseman even have said, we need Jalen Hurts for the future. We need him healthy for these Super Bowl runs. Nick Foles isn't here anymore to save you when your star quarterback goes down. Yeah, I think Tanner McKee's a good quarterback, but is he going to win you a Super Bowl like Nick Foles did? Probably not. So you need Jalen Hurts. And I honestly think it's kind of a positive when you look at his numbers right now. Jalen has learned what Carson Wentz and so many of these mobile quarterbacks never did. When to take contact, when to fight for more yards, when to run, versus when to just extend the passing play with your legs, but keep your eyes downfield and throw. I think that's part of it too. Jalen has been running to pass more over the last couple years. He's been a much more accurate passer on the run. I think he's throwing the football away more. I think he's also evolving in the pocket, which is something mobile quarterbacks also don't do, and it's why they don't age as well. Jalen has evolved so much over the years as a pocket passer that he doesn't need to run as much. He can throw with anticipation. He's a much more accurate passer. When the blitz is coming, he has hot read answers. He's a much smarter quarterback nowadays. So I just think he's evolved. I think he's smartened up. And yeah, I don't think he's exactly the same athlete as he was in 2021 and 2022 when he was an MVP runner-up. But I think a lot of it's calculated. I do think as the year goes on and the games get more important, the elements get a little bit tougher to throw the football. I do think you'll see him run more. Like, I do think tonight you will see Jalen used more as a design runner against Green Bay than you did the first 8 games of the season. Now, is he going to get 15 to 20 carries? No, probably not. But I do think as the year goes on, gradually it will increase. Because when you look at it, this has been the right approach. I mean, every year, Jalen has missed games because he was injured as a runner. Last year, he was a running quarterback against Washington. Going up the left sidelines, he suffered a concussion. 2023, he suffered a mystery leg injury that he dealt with all year, and it significantly hampered his mobility. 2022, he breaks his ribs, or whatever. I think he broke his ribs against Chicago, but he's going up the middle of the field, takes a couple hits, missed games in 2022. 2021, Gardner Minshew had to start a couple games because Jalen Hurts got hurt as a runner. So I think he's learned. I think the Eagles have learned. They've had so many mobile quarterbacks throughout their franchise's history that I think they're better now at handling those kind of players, keeping them healthy and making sure that they age well. And I think it's a positive, honestly. And I think, like I said, you will see it increase as the year goes on. All right, we'll wrap up this Monday edition of Locked On Eagles coming up next. What are the strength-on-strength matchups to watch in Eagles-Packers? And then what are the mismatches to take an eye on? We'll get into that coming up as we wrap up this Monday edition of the Locked On Eagles podcast. Today's episode of the Locked On Eagles podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of a game, you want to ride the hot hand, which lately for the Philadelphia 76ers has been, Tyrese Maxey, Edgecombe, the young guards. Bet on them in Philadelphia. FanDuel has live bets on everything from who's going to score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a much bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com and sign up to play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thanks as always for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. Guys, make sure your second listen is the Locked On NFL podcast. 2 episodes a day with Tyler, the Madman Rowland, and the Barber, Tony Wiggins. Tyler's got you in the morning. Tony's got you during the afternoon. 2 episodes Monday through Friday each and every day right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. You can get that show wherever you get Locked On Eagles, audio platforms, and YouTube as well. Okay, Eagles-Packers tonight, Monday Night Football, 8:15 kickoff. You'll have our live post-game shows, 2 of them for an hour and a half after the game immediately following, hopefully, a big win in Lambeau. What are the big matchups to watch? We hit on this a little bit on Crossover Thursday with Peter from Locked On Packers, but I wanted to dive into it a little bit more. I think there are some strength-on-strength battles between 2 of the best rosters in the NFC that could decide this game. And then there is like one key mismatch that I'm interested in. I think the strength-on-strength battles for the Eagles offense against the Packers defense, it's clearly your 2 elite tackles, Jordan Mailata and Lane Johnson, against Rashawn Gary and Micah Parsons, who both are on pace for double-digit sacks this year. You can make the argument it's the best edge combo in the entire NFL. I don't think you can even make the argument. I think it's concrete that Jordan Mailata and Lane Johnson is the best tackle combo, the best tackle duo in the entire NFL. So this is the cream of the crop at the most important positions in football that aren't quarterback. And I cannot wait for this matchup. It's going to be so much fun. I think that really could decide this game. Like if Lane and Mailata, if they can prevent Parsons and Gary from wrecking this game, I think the Eagles are going to win handily. Like I think it really is up to those pass rushers because I think the Eagles have the advantage in pretty much every other part of this game. Like I think A.J. Brown versus Devontae Smith against that secondary with Dallas Goedert as well. I think that's a big advantage for the Birds. Their interior offensive line has been much better over the last few weeks. When you look at the defensive side of the football, the Packers are really banged up when it comes to their weaponry. I think the only guy I'm kind of not concerned about that I'm watching saying, he could do some damage is Christian Watson, who in his last 2 games since he returned from injury has been a good deep threat for Jordan Love. But outside of him, it's like they're really banged up at receiver. Tucker Kraft, their number 1 weapon at tight end, is out for the year, so it's got to be Luke Musgrave. That's a mismatch for the Eagles in their secondary, which is a top 5 secondary, top 5 passing defense in every statistical category this year. I would even have Quinyon Mitchell shadow Christian Watson in this game. The entire game, I'm having him follow Watson. He's the only guy I'm not worried about, but watching closely. But outside of that, it's like, yeah, I mean, it's that edge battle against the Eagles tackles, because everywhere else, I don't know if there's another mismatch that Green Bay has the advantage. I think there's another strength-on-strength battle, though. I think you look at Josh Jacobs in the Packers' rushing attack against the Eagles' front 7. The numbers haven't been great for the Eagles' running defense as the season has continued, but as the season has continued, it has gotten better. With Nakobe Dean returning from injury, Jalen Carter getting his legs under him. Now they have Brandon Graham and Nolan Smith back, 2 elite run-stopping edge rushers, Jalen Phillips and Jordan Davis, Moro Ojoma. That's a strength-on-strength battle, too. And the Green Bay Packers are going to have to lean into their run game, their play-action passing, to overcome the injuries at receiver and tight end. So if the Eagles can just win those 2 strength-on-strength battles, if you can limit the impact of Parsons, Gary, and Jacobs, I think they win this game, because everywhere else, I think the Eagles have the advantage. So that's what I'm watching tonight. Let me know what you think. Hit us up on X. We'll be talking Birds all throughout the game, all throughout the night, at Locked On Birds, at DiBiase, LOE. And also make sure you subscribe to Locked On Eagles for 7+ shows every single week, Monday through Friday, on YouTube and on all podcast platforms. Until tonight for the post-game show, I'm Louis DiBiase signing off. Thanks so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. Thanks so much for downloading, watching, and listening, and let's go Birds. Fly, Eagles, fly.